Donkey Kong Country Returns has returned. Again. Yes, this is technically the third release of this game, and this is the third time we'll be seeing these bosses. So yeah, why am I ranking these? Well, it's because I feel like it, leave me alone. So I never actually ranked the bosses of this game, and now's a better time than ever. So yeah, there's only a total of 8 bosses in this game, but we're still gonna rank them from worst to best. All criteria will apply here, meaning the background music, to even the background itself, to the difficulty of the boss, and just how fun and engaging the boss battle is. Enough of the chitter chatter, let's get into every single boss battle in Donkey Kong Country Returns HD ranked. Coming in at number 8 and starting the list, we have Scurvy Crew, which is these 3 pirate crabs, and this is pretty much a pathetic boss battle, I'm not gonna lie. You don't even hit them 3 times. Technically, you hit them each twice and the battle's over. So one by one, they will come out of the sand, and you have to take them out one by one in order for the next one to appear. Now, I've played this game tons of times before, but it's so daggone simplistic, I still forgot what I was supposed to do here. You can launch the crabs up into the air if you roll into them, but it does really nothing. In fact, the crab will just jump back out the sand. So what's the purpose of even doing that? Well, you can bonk their heads on the crates held by rope, but it does nothing really besides give you like a banana or maybe even a heart, just some stuff that pops out of the boxes. It's really not even needed. That would have been a cooler gimmick than what you're actually supposed to do. Yeah, the game wants you to jump on their head and then pound the ground and then jump on them again. That's literally what you do to every single crab. There's hardly any difficulty here. The only difficulty is the red captain crab likes to occasionally lift his hands up into the air to dance. And when he does this, just don't jump on him. It's really that simple. Then all 3 of them will stack up for the final part, and it's your job just to knock them over with a roll when they start dancing and lifting their claws in the air. And then you do the same thing a second time, and then that's it. The battle's over. It's just weird. I don't know what happened with this boss battle design, because the bosses in this game aren't anything spectacular, but this one was just so incredibly boring. I don't know what happened. Number 7, we have the first boss in the game being Mugly. It's this giant toad, frog, rhino type of thing, where you simply have to jump over him and land on the giant spot on his back. Yeah, isn't that straightforward? Yeah, this is a very simple boss. You jump over him and land on the giant spot on his back. Well, what makes this a little bit better than the crabs is the fact that you don't hit him twice and then he's dead. In fact, you had to hit him 9 times, which is actually a good amount, and it actually matches that of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which thankfully they changed the bosses in that game to be a lot better. But still, after each phase of 3 that you hit him, he'll transform and change colors, which actually gives him a faster attack. Well, pretty much every attack is a tad bit faster, including an attack where he bounces up in the air back and forth and you have to get underneath him in order to jump into his back when he lands. If you're really good, you can bounce on him like a pogo stick. Next up, we have Stu, the main boss of World 3. This time we're not just jumping on the boss's head. Yeah, we actually have to pick up bombs and throw them back at him, which is pretty unique and pretty much the only boss in the game where you're picking things up and throwing them at him. In fact, this boss battle reminds me a lot of Scruff Rock from Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, minus the fact that Donkey Kong's not giving himself a concussion on the black egg. I actually found this boss to be pretty enjoyable, especially when he starts throwing out different types of bombs. He'll throw out one bomb that's like a part enemy, part bomb that walks around like a bomb trying to hit you. He'll even drop bombs that leave shockwaves across the ground, including one where he'll just spit out like a literal nuke out of his throat. What the heck? But if you're not paying close attention, this boss can definitely do sneak up damage on you, so you're definitely going to want to have to pay attention to all his attacks and every bomb that he throws on the battlefield. Coming in at number 5, we have Mango Ruby. Mango Ruby is a completely different style of boss battle, where you don't directly attack the boss, at least not right away. Your job is to climb around these grass-covered wheel platforms, where you have to slam in a switch on each platform. Now the catch is that it's rotating in a specific direction, so if you're climbing in the opposite direction, you might be moving too slow. And if you're moving too slow, then Mango Ruby will catch you, because he's electrified until you hit every single switch. This is a really cool concept, and especially around phase 3, he was flying around these wheels and catching me before I even realized it. But the real difficult part comes down to actually hitting the creature, because on phase 2 and phase 3, he'll actually lose his orbs a lot more, actually ending up with only like 2 or 3 orbs in the last phase. So it's your job to land perfectly on the pink orbs, because if you don't, you will take damage instead. The only thing that makes this boss battle a little too easy is the fact that you can just go stand and rest on the platforms on the outside of the stage and not even mess with the wheels if you don't want to. Yes, there is a timer if you don't hurry up and hit all all the switches, it will reset all of them, but it's pretty simple when you can just drop down on one of the wooden planks below and let him fly by. If that wasn't part of the boss battle, it probably would be a lot better, I'm not gonna lie. The intro to fighting Thugly always killed me because it's just kind of like you're pulling up to his crib and busting through his ceiling. Surprise, mother. But his name makes sense because he is ugly. Thugly is pretty much a harder version of Mugly, but he has a lot more attacks here, and let me tell you, this is the hardest boss in the game if you're playing on mirror mode, which reverses the stage. Yeah, that's what it looks like. But it mainly gives you one heart, which is a hard mode, and you can't use Diddy Kong. And without Diddy Kong, this boss battle can be a threat. He charges you very quickly, especially on phases 2 and 3, and you have to wait for the shell on his back to lift up. But without Diddy Kong, you have to jump completely over top of him with just Donkey Kong, and you have to wait for his shell to lift up, and it does so in weird various patterns. Sometimes it will shut back really quick, or sometimes he'll actually just sit there for a second and then shut the shell, or sometimes he'll just kind of look around for a while, giving you plenty of opportunity to strike. It's pretty random, but it's a very difficult boss without Diddy, that's for sure. Most of his attacks are the same from the first fight, just absolutely faster. I mean, a lot faster. However, this is one of the few bosses in the entire game that I felt had a real true challenge to it, especially like I said in mirror mode, which literally costed me over 50 lives. I'm not joking. So yes, it's a good boss, but it's also a freaking frustrating boss, which makes me just want to do this. Coming in at number 3, we have Mole Miner Max. This is a simple boss in theory, but it's executed pretty well. You're in this minecart chasing down a drill with minecarts behind it. You'll have to go through 3 phases of jumping over spinning axes that the moles actually chuck at you. You'll then move into a game of whack-a-mole, where you have to wait a second after they pop out and then bounce on their heads. If you do it too soon, you'll take damage from their claws. It's a pretty cool concept, and doing this 3 times actually seems like a long time. It is, but it's actually not terrible. However, this is a boss battle that requires you to memorize patterns, because after a while, you'll realize that the mole's pickaxe throws become a little bit more difficult. The path can go up and down, they can throw it up above you, which means you'll have to duck underneath them, and sometimes they can throw multiple in a row, and even a bomb at you that you'll have to toss back. The final phase is against Mole Miner Max himself, where he'll jump into the various different carts and pop out just like the other moles did. But this time, you really have to be careful, because it's really hard to tell where he's coming out of. Even though that you can see the wiggle marks on the carts, he kind of just pops up at the last one, and it might be right underneath you, which I found to be sometimes completely unfair and just ridiculous, but it's a pretty unique boss battle that I actually enjoyed. But not in mirror mode, once again, because it's so freaking hard to not take an ounce of damage. Not as hard as you. Now the last 2 categories was tough, and I had to make a difficult decision, so the final boss is actually going to be number 2 on this list. Now why is that? I personally didn't think the final boss was all that good. I kinda don't want to count the lead up to it, because yes, the lead up to the final boss is great. Blasting to the top of the island to fight Tiki Tong with the rocket barrel is actually pretty daggone sweet. It's the battle itself that's just a little... we've been there before. So once we get to the final boss room, Tiki Tong is spinning in circles and puking on his minions. This in turn gives him hands, and we had to jump on each hand 2 times. So he does simple things that you can pretty much predict that a head and hands boss is going to do. Clap his hands together, try to sideswipe you with a karate chop, or just straight up try to flatten you. And that's the problem. This is a pretty decent phase, but for a final boss, it's really nothing. It's more cinematic than anything. The music is great, and the background with all the weird moving symbols and objects is really cool. It's just, I'm jumping on hands, come on. However, towards the end of his last hand, he actually fakes a smack on you, which is actually genius. Like, seriously, I don't think I've ever really seen something like that out of a video game boss. It's great. And the second phase is also pretty simple, where he slams his head on the ground, and it's your job to jump on the giant button or the top of the drum. Is he a drum? He's a tiki drum, right? Right? But where have I seen this before? Oh, Bowser, you copier. Yeah, besides that, he has a couple occasional fire moves that he'll do, and then occasionally also just swoop down. It's really nothing. It's also very simple once you learn what it is, but especially going into it with Diddy Kong and 4 hearts, you're probably not going to have too much of a problem with this boss. It's not a bad boss by any means. In fact, it's still really good, but it's just... it's not final boss worthy in my eyes.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
And the best boss of Donkey Kong Country Returns HD is Colonel Pluck. I always loved this boss as a kid, and visiting it again, it's still really good. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. It still has a couple problems like pacing issues and just taking way too long to give you your opportunity to strike, but it's still an overall really fun boss fight with two fun phases. The first phase just has you trying to get to the other side of him by going underneath his legs. It's just, it takes a while. Yeah, he moves pretty slow, but eventually he'll fly up in the air and land on the ground, and you have to pay close attention to his feet. If he drops straight down, his feet will be together and they'll damage you, but if he spins around in a circle and then lands, his feet will be wide. You'll have to quickly duck, jump up, grab the chains, and bang on them in order to deal damage. It's an extremely satisfying way to damage a boss, and I absolutely love this part. It's satisfying every single time. And it's so funny to see Colonel Pluck flying around the cockpit. In phase 2, the legs will snap off and he'll have a flying machine similar to Dr. Eggman, where eventually he'll drop some robot chickens and then drop out of the sky on top of you, where you have to jump and smack him on top of his head from his flying saucer. And after 3 more hits, you'll get the victory. It's an extremely satisfying boss battle with great music and a fun scenery in the background being this factory of how they're building the Tiki gang in the first place. Who would have thought a chicken would have been the best boss of a Donkey Kong game? And that's all the bosses in Donkey Kong Country Returns HD ranked. If you guys really enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe and show some love, because if you do, maybe I'll even rank the bosses of Tropical Freeze. And if you guys enjoy that as well, I'll rank every single boss in Donkey Kong Country. That's every single Donkey Kong Country game, even the 3 classic games. So make sure you leave a like and subscribe and share this video. It helps out a lot. Thank you so much for tuning in, and like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See ya, guys.